Welcome to the Small Town Big Dreams podcast. My name is Becky Waples, and this is the podcast that celebrates small town creators and shares their stories. A creator to me could be an entrepreneur, someone with a side hustle, a person with a passion project, even a social media guru, or anybody else who has taken their goal and is crushing it. From their background to where they found the courage, from their challenges to their wins, to where they find inspiration and how they took their first step, I cannot wait to chat and laugh about anything and everything that comes with creating something from scratch. If you are inspired by small town creators who turn their big dreams into reality, then this is the podcast for you. Please subscribe to hear all upcoming podcasts, follow me on Instagram, and leave a review or comment so I know what you want to hear and what creators inspire you. Let's grow together. So thanks, Will, for joining me today. I don't know how much you know about this podcast, but I reached out on Reddit to see if anybody in Grapers knew a creator or if they were a creator and if they'd want to join me for my podcast because it's still relatively new. And you were the first to reach out. And you basically said, you're a young guy. You just started this. Well, did you just start your new business? We can get into that. But yeah, what you told me was really exciting. And I'm really glad we were able to connect.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on here. It's exciting.
Yeah. Have you been on a podcast before?
No, I have not. No. Listened to a lot of them, but never been in the seat before.
I hope you enjoy it. I originally started by asking small businesses so what podcast have you been on that have asked you about being a creator? And everyone's like, no one's ever asked me. No one's ever inquired about it. And so that's kind of where I got started. People should be asking these questions and finding out the stories of these small town creators. So that's kind of where this got started, and it's exciting to connect.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's a great idea because I think there's a lot of interesting people with good stories to tell, and podcasts are a great way to do it.
Exactly. Let's get started. And can you tell me about your business?
Well, put it simply, I make things out of wood. I've been doing a little bit of custom work the past couple of years and continue to do that. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. So I started when I was 16, and in my family, we've always had everyone speaks always highly of the grandparents, and I will too. Just a phenomenal wood carver, insanely talented. And when I was growing up, that influence never really rubbed off on me, but then it really started to once I was getting kind of through high school, and there's a lot of pressure obviously to what college and university are you going to, and that wasn't really for me. And then I was in the shop classes and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And that's actually where I got started with Timmerwerk. I cut out a math class once I finished my assignment, just go straight to the wood shop. And I started making little breadboards for the markets that I started to attend at the time. So that's how I got started. And then I did, just a lot of farmers markets, stuff like that. The really big thing was jewelry, and so those that might know me, they probably know me for my jewelry because that's pretty one-of-a-kind style for at least around here. And I did that, and I started kind of going to larger pieces with furniture and stuff like that. Then I went to trade school for cabinet making, worked in cabinet shop for a bit, so I kind of learned how to start making bigger pieces. Yeah, so that kind of brings us to today where I'm starting to building a lot more furniture, doing more custom work, and yeah, it's been great. I love it.
That's awesome. So you told me a lot there. So your company is called Timmerwerk. Where did that name come from?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So a lot of people assume that my name's Tim, which it's not. It's Will.
Oh, I did it first too. Yeah.
Yeah. But where it came from is my sister lives in the Netherlands. She's lived there for a couple of years now, and brilliant when it comes to languages. And I really quickly became fluent in Dutch. So she tried unsuccessfully, mind you, to teach me Dutch. When I was making a company, I just went to Google Translate and see what the Dutch word for carpentry was, and I actually fell in love with the name. So
Timmerwerk is the Dutch word for carpentry.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. At least, yeah, it seemed to.
Very cool. And then you also mentioned that you started at 16. So you started in shop classes?
Yeah.
You must have a warehouse or production center at your house. Did you start that at 16 too, kind of collecting, or?
Yeah, kind of. So I was living at my dad, and there was a little shop we had out in the garage, and it was the tiniest garage. It could barely fit a small Nissan Versa. It was just tiny. So, but that's where I got started. And my dad had a couple little tools that I'd borrow, and then And just seeing the questions being touched on this a little later too, once I figured out that I wanted to do Timmerwerk, I did this program through the Business Center in Owen Sound. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And they gave me a good grant, so then I got invested there. I did start my dad's place, as well as in the shop class.
And then you also mentioned talented grandparents. Expand.
Yeah, for sure. So my grandpa, and so I guess, and it's been a while in our family too, where he came from, they would like do logging and shipbuilding, stuff like that. And my grandpa was around that a lot growing up, and like he loved woodworking, and he's never like did it professionally, but yeah, he was just like an exceptionally talented carver. He has this big storage of wood. He cut down a lot of trees and milled the wood, so he has this shed just like filled to the brim with like live edge boards and stuff like that. Just all types of lumber he cut himself.
Did he tell? Would he have a name that people might recognize?
No, he never sold. He went to a couple art galleries. And he's not exactly from this area. They live more Peterborough area. But yeah, he just kind of did it as a hobby.
Very cool. And sorry, I should have asked you, well, where are you from?
Yeah, so I am living in Durham, and my new wood shop that I haven't actually quite announced yet, but it is going to be in Holstein.
Okay.
The shop been out for, I guess I've been renting it almost 3 years. I just moved from is up in Meaford, so it's kind of all over the county.
Very cool. So I was at a wedding last night. My brother-in-law got married, and do you know Shauna Harvey? She runs the Christmas show, I think it's at the Bay Shore.
Oh, okay. I don't know her personally, but I went to that show, yeah.
Okay, because I told her that I was interviewing you tonight, and she said that, yeah, that she was like, oh, he's incredible. He comes to my Christmas show. And you mentioned that you started with farmers markets and Christmas shows. Are you doing that again this year?
Yeah, with farmers markets, and next summer I do want to make a point of going to more kind of the summer markets. I find myself a little busy with commission work to do a lot of them during the summer, but Christmas is certainly the big time of year. So I go to, there's a couple. There's one in Thornbury, that'll be November 19th. There's one in Port Elgin beginning of November. Pardon?
Are you going to the one in Port Elgin?
Yeah, that, what's it, Westlink Club?
Westlink. Yeah. So I live in Port Elgin, so I will come and just introduce myself because I haven't been to that Christmas show, but it's really good.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Nice in person.
Absolutely, yeah. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Have you always wanted to own your own business?
So funny enough, no. I never would have foreseen myself doing this. Yeah, it's all kind of just happened by just chance, really, and I'm glad where it went out. But yeah, I never once thought.
It wasn't like a goal of yours?
No.
Do you do this full-time?
Not at the moment. Right now, it's, kind of do it part-time.
Is your full-time job, is it woodworking related, or?
Yeah, kind of. So I work for a blacksmith and also a really talented guy. His company name is Live Iron Forge.
Oh, okay.
Just does exceptional work, and I've learned a lot. He's been a really big influence, and also just a big supporter. Like, if kind of the deadline's coming up on a project, like, hey, I just need a couple days to finish this up, and it's really good to help support that. So, and just learning lots of kind of complementary skills, and also that's how I've gotten into the metalworking, is through there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you using some of those talents in your woodworking to create like something really unique, or?
Yeah, precisely that. Yeah, like a lot of the skills is so I've really been learning is just how much it's all really just basic geometry. So you just kind of have an idea and just kind of like reverse engineer it to think of what parts you need and like how to kind of work backwards to the process. And you can make some really interesting stuff, something that you wouldn't think about.
How old are you? You're 21?
Yeah.
When I was 21, I wasn't creating anything. That wasn't on my brain at all. When you told me you were 21, I was like, I have to interview this guy. He must be incredibly motivated. Is that a word you would use to describe yourself, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I'm pretty lucky that I found my calling pretty young. Even if, later down the road, it's not necessarily woodworking, just making in general is really
right,
like what I meant to do. And I think when you're passionate about it and really care, that it's really easy to just get sucked in. I mean, my social life might be lacking a little bit, but like I wouldn't want it any other way. Like I just love making things, and I just love seeing something that I did at the end of the day,
Oh, absolutely. I would say it took me a lot longer. Like I'm 35 now, and I think last year was the kind of the year was like, I'm ready to create something. Like I'm really ready to call something myself and kind of like leave a legacy. And so it's really cool that you discovered that so early.
Oh, yeah, I agree. What do you do for creating?
This podcast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say I have like any sort of, well, that's not fair, but I wouldn't say I'm artistic. I'd say I'm more of a people person. So my goal was really, I want to create something. What should I create? I kept asking, like, what should I create? And my last job was in HR. So I was doing recruiting. I was constantly interviewing people. So I knew that was something that I had a good skill. So I've also gone to school for marketing. So I was trying to think of something that you could kind of incorporate both of those. I also love to talk. I also love to meet new people. So the podcast worked for me. Oh, well, my goal is to, if it worked for me. Have you ever faced any challenges or have you had any hiccups since you started?
Yeah, yep, a lot. But I mean, that's just all part of the process. The very first one I came in contact with was at that small shop I was telling you about, my dad's place. And it was actually my first ever like furniture commission was this 4 foot by 8 foot bookcase. And because of the size of the shop, there was no room to do anything else besides walk around this bookcase. So that was probably my first big challenge, and realizing that it's not all sunshine and roses when you're doing custom work. And then I'd say probably my biggest challenge in general, and that challenges aside a little bit with the new shop, kind of for the past, well, I moved into the shop in Meaford in 2019. So it was an hour's drive every time I wanted to do something, because I was working during the week. Every week I have to make the hour drive up. And like if I had a big project on the go that there's a deadline, it'd be like drawing up the evening sometimes, just do like 2 hours of work and drive back. So that was probably my biggest challenge. Followed closely by my new shop being a decommissioned chicken barn. So I had to clean all the chicken remnants out and build from scratch. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting dilemma. Do you ever face any challenges with your age? Do people assume that you are as talented as you are? Is anything you've encountered?
That's a fantastic question. Not that I've really noticed. I've had like maybe the odd, like almost passive aggressive statement, but people I've worked with have been really fantastic. And when I go to the art markets, like people don't have that because they see my work right in front of them and they can see what I can do. So I personally, I haven't really had that. No, I will say that if I shave though, people certainly would, because I look 12.
But I would say when I went to your website, when you showed me like, hey, would you be interested in interviewing me? Your work really speaks for yourself. All you have to do is like, yeah, you're exactly what you said. Like, look at my work. I'm clearly talented. But I thought maybe if you had just said, I don't even honestly know, but if someone had said, had just seen you, not your work, and they were like, maybe like kind of rolled their eyes, but then you kind of showed them what you could do, and they obviously stepped back and said, okay, I was wrong, clearly.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really appreciate what you said. And yeah, I think I've been lucky 'cause when I'm doing like talking with people in the public, like I'll have like at markets, I'll have my work right in front of me, or if they found me online, they probably went to my page first. So,
Right.
yeah. And I think also for my age, I've done it for not a crazy long time, but for 5 years of woodworking, like I've gotten a fair, like, kind of did my apprenticeship, quote unquote. So,
Oh yeah, you said you got your cabinet maker
yeah. So I'm not on tier like
trade school.
I haven't done my red seal test for that yet, but like, yeah, I've done the trade school and I've also made a lot of stuff with wood. So I think, yeah, it's been great.
Proven yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Timmerwerk. Tell us about your business. So you've mentioned commission work a lot. Is that where most of your business comes from, commission work?
Yeah, nowadays it is. I absolutely love doing markets, but for myself personally, when I'm gonna say probably the people that go to markets full time, they're like really gonna be on top of that. For me, it was just like a lot of driving, and well, I do all right at markets, not enough to really like pay bills. So the commission work has definitely been better for that.
And how do you find your customers, or how do they find you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a bit of them seeking me out and also from word of mouth. So I've gotten a client I've done a couple jobs for just through Google Ads. She found my website and liked my work. my recent project, I made 5 of these tables. I have a lot more work to do from coming up, but I don't know if you know Zach Keshik.
I used to work with Zach.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw the tables that you did for him just on your website. I haven't seen them in person, but when I saw that collaboration, I thought that was pretty cool because I've reached out to Zach to see if he would do this podcast as well. And he said yes. Yeah. So
it's like he came through word of mouth. I don't know if you know Jenny Hanley.
no, let me know. Jenny Hanley.
Yeah. Yeah. She does, it's called the Hanley Institute. And yeah, she works with kids and gets, like, Zach's been there to teach them cooking. I've done, like, taught them there. Definitely reach out. She's good. Yeah, she's been a good marketer for me too. She sent a couple people my way. So yeah, I don't really seek out people. I think people have found me for the most part.
That's very cool. I want to know, like, what do you offer? So is it very customized? You mentioned bookshelves, you mentioned breadboards, jewelry. I've obviously seen tables and benches, but if someone came to you with a incredibly custom, and nothing comes to the top of my head, but maybe like a giant corner desk, are you willing to work for them?
Yeah. I right now I'm kind of at a point where I can't be too much of a beggar. I think when people see my work, they kind of see the style that it's definitely more custom, and I like working with people to collaborate how to get their vision, but also kind of like add like a flair to it. So I feel like people would probably choose my business for the fact that I'm willing to think a little bit outside the box. If they want, like, let's say that corner desk, if they want like a built-in charging port or something, I happily work with them to make something work for that. I think just being able to be flexible with kind of what the client wants, but also take what the client wants, but also kind of put my own like aesthetic twist on it too.
I love that. That's very cool. Yeah. You kind of touched base on that just a couple seconds ago. What makes you unique and different?
I think it's, for me, my willingness to, look a little bit outside the box. Like, one thing when I was starting out, dropping this too long-winded, but when I was starting out, I'd always be looking at Pinterest for inspiration. I was always thinking, what should I make? I never really didn't really think for myself, but since I've learned to just kind of put the phone down and just actually think what I want to make. So I think the way I utilize materials, some of the design elements I like, for instance, the tables I made for Zach, like, that table like design really evolved as I was working on it. It's like, oh, like, I should do this instead. I should add this, metal collar here. And it just comes down to like, it still does the same function, but I'm able to add just something that you don't really see elsewhere to it.
Breathe life into words.
Coming this November from the Chesley Community Players, Aesop's musical foible. Get ready for a wild ride of laughter, music, and classic tales. The resentful fox, the egomaniac hare, and more come to life as hysterical characters on stage that only Aesop and the audience can see or hear. Catch the show November 17th, 18th, 24th, or 25th at 7 p.m. or November 19th or 26th at 2 p.m. here at the Bijou Theatre in Chesley, Ontario. Tickets are $25 for adults and $15 for students, a show for all ages. Get your tickets now and join them for a night of fun, laughter, and fantastic music. You can get your tickets at the Chesley Remax, 519-363-3335, or through Eventbrite.
You got a tale to tell.
So you must be very creative, like incredibly creative. Yeah.
I try.
But did you always realize that, like, growing up? Do you have other creative hobbies?
That's a good question. So for one thing, I positively suck at drawing. Like, the only class in my entire life that I failed was, I think it was grade 7 art. Kind of funny enough, but I would say my creativity was in other ways. Like, I always enjoyed creative writing. I don't do any writing really now, but I do enjoy the idea of writing. And also, I guess, photography too. Recently, I've kind of discovered photography. I love taking pictures. Not a photographer, I'm just a guy with a camera. But when I was growing up as well, kind of tying back to the writing a bit, I would just make like really elaborate stories with the Legos I was playing with. Like, there's so much backstory. Like, it would make a great TV show. But Yeah, so as far as like visual arts, I actually never really knew that I had it into me until I started woodworking, but I would say that the creativity took other kind of forms.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you about the business center that when your grant, that was that through that's based in Owen Sound.
Yeah.
Was it for youth or was it for anybody?
Yeah, so that one in particular was for youth, and it just insanely amazing program. So it's called Summer Company, and you get a total grant of $3,000, and you do a couple of seminars, like on like budgeting,
Okay.
marketing, a couple things like that. And you got like sent home worksheets and stuff, and then you had to do like a timetable of your hours to prove you're actually doing something with the money and all that. But yeah, it was the program that helped me get started. I bought a couple machines with it, bought some material with it, and yeah, especially when you're, because I believe it's from the ages 15 to 29, and you have to be going to school the following year, which is
Okay.
the summer company. So if you're in that age bracket, like $3,000 is a lot to get started, especially if it's a kind of a hobby and you're kind of dipping your toes in it. And I strongly recommend it to anyone, any of my peers or younger, a little bit older. Like, it's just a phenomenal program.
I'll put the link in the show notes if anyone wants to check that out, because I agree with you. I think it's an excellent program for people to look into as well. I did want to touch base on that a little bit, but back to Timmerwerk. What do you think is the future? Like, where do you see Timmerwerk in 5 years?
To be honest, I'd like to do a little bit of commission, but what I'd ultimately like to do is doing more like online sales. And it is trickier, and I still have a lot to learn about like kind of selling through Etsy, because I'd like to, maybe not as a full-time income or anything, but just as like a supplementary to make the things I want to make. Like, I have a bunch of designs for furniture and stuff that I just haven't had the time to make. So I'd really like to learn how to sell them on Etsy, and just then, yeah, I can really not be working. I'm just solely playing and making some money off that. Realistically, I'll still be doing commission work, but I would like to do, I see myself finding more the niche I'm looking for, like, people like Zach, like doing, kind of higher or fancier, like restaurant tables, stuff like that. It's really the avenue I'd like to take for custom work. And I'd still like to attend the odd market here and there with kind of my small like jewelry or like little boxes and stuff like that, just for fun.
Right. Your restaurant table idea is very cool. You could market yourself as like a really high quality, you pay for what you get tables, and come to my restaurant. We have Timmerwerk tables. It could be a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty cool idea.
Thank you.
Do you have any exciting projects or goals on the horizon?
Yeah, so I've touched on it briefly. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week I'll kind of fully unveil it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't have to unveil it here if you don't.
Oh, no, that's fine. I've been kind of excited to talk about it because it's been a lot of working and not a whole lot of talking. So yeah, I mentioned that I'm opening up a shop in basically a decommissioned chicken barn. And yeah, and the funny thing, and I'm so glad it worked out to this, when I did the math for how many chickens used to live on my side of the barn, because I only have half the barn, there's 1 million chickens in its career. That, yeah, so yeah, it's been a lot of work. There's a lot of things to clean up, some pretty liberal use of industrial cleaners, but I've basically built the dream shop that I've been wanting so badly. And it's not an hour away from me, and everything's just laid out how I want it. So the shop I was in before was pretty much someone messaged me through Instagram, said, hey, in our family, we had a contractor who passed away. Would you like to work out of his space? And it's like the shop was set up for how he worked and just wasn't the way I worked. Again, it was a great startup and all that, but to actually build a shop that's triple the size of what I had before, and everything's just where I want it to be. So that's been the big exciting thing. But as far as on the horizon, I've got some more tables to make for Zach.
Nice.
And in his new space that he's opening up soon, he wants to do like siding with like live edge boards and stuff. So I'll be doing that in the coming year.
Very cool. Okay, so I like to ask, because my podcast is based in a small town, how do you find the Grapers region contributes to your business?
I would say quite positively. And the reason I say that is just the amount of support that I've gotten, like through that, that program I was telling you about, but more importantly, like just how many people like that I meet at markets that, they had a woodworker in the family, so they drop off a little bit of wood, or, they're willing to come, teach me some things or like help me out a little bit. So yeah, I've just been so lucky, like just the people have been so supportive, and also the fact that like they accepted me so well at like going to these markets and stuff. Like it was just always like continuous support from whether it's people buying it, other vendors, just like give me some, a little bit of advice, just in general. Like it's just been, people have just been fantastic here.
So like I mentioned when Shauna said, oh, his work's incredible. And you mentioned that you know who she is, but don't know her super well. Markets are little families. Like those become your friends. Those become, I think that, and maybe you would know better than me, but even if like the bread maker at the market and someone mentioned something about woodworking, I would assume they'd reach out, they'd tell them all about you. Like,
yeah,
you knew somebody that wanted some bread, you would tell them all about them, that you become a real community just in the market area.
Yeah, because especially when I was doing the farmers markets this summer, I did a couple different ones, so I really met a lot of people. And yeah, you're absolutely right, because like you're spending so much time with each other, when things get a little slower, like all there is to do is go around and chat with all the other vendors. Yeah, you're totally right. Like it really is like a small family of type. And I don't know if you know Ron Barnett. He does like a lot of like kind of the Great Highlands farmers markets and stuff like that, like other art shows. And like he's so good, like always sending me something like that. And like he knows that I'm not always super with me email, so something like, hey, you probably didn't see it, so here you go. So yeah, like they just know, you just get to know them really well. And yeah, you're totally right.
Part of the reason why I wanted the podcast is because I wanted to really highlight the stories of people who are working in these markets, because I find them they're just the nicest people. Mm-hmm. And it's just so it's just funny that you said that. I agree with you that you become a little family and you start collaborating and you start sharing this with everybody. And I didn't have anything physical to share in these markets. So I was like, how can I become a part of that?
Yeah. Oh, and that's a great way, because I think that's, okay, so I've nothing but good things to say about the markets. The one thing that I think could see a little bit of improvement is just like community outreach. Like there's a lot of people that go to them are, I would say generally on the older side. So I think there needs to be some way to bring kind of new people into the markets, because I think a lot of young people would be super interested in what's here. They just like don't know it's here. They don't know the stories. They don't know the people. So I think having more novel ways of getting to know the makers, like this podcast, if you have like a social media for it or something like that, I think it's a fantastic way to share what's actually like what's happening within our communities.
I really like that you said that. How many younger people do you see when you go to the markets that have their own booths?
So there's one other, funny enough, he's also a woodworker. Yeah, his name's Jax Woodworks. And he does like charcuterie boards and stuff, but he's the only other person my age. Like there are some kind of like mid-20s or early 30s people, but not, definitely more so probably 40s plus, if I were to say.
I agree with you. I think it's the people like me who kind of go through like a midlife crisis. It's like, I don't want to work for somebody every day. I want to kind of do my own thing, and I have a passion for this. And I think we're touching on something pretty cool right now, because you're right. It's about 40s. And I don't think people in their 20s, they might be kind of just, I do that. Like I go to a 9-to-5 job. And so it is, I think we're touching on something kind of cool here, because you're right. The podcast could maybe highlight that there's other ways to make money and get your foot in the door through these markets, because eventually the 40-year-olds are going to probably retire. Or it's not true, because you'll see retirees there too. A great thing to do when you retire is go to markets and sell your little stuff. But I mean, yeah, it would be kind of cool to get younger people inspired to start their own thing and know that the markets aren't a scary place. Like you have a community there and they welcome you and they want you to do well.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really know what the root cause of wall would be. Yeah, if there's any young people listening, just go for it. Like if you have, if you like, I don't know, there's so many different types of craft you can do. Like if you're a painter, photographer, anything, like there's And the thing is, there's a lot of talent at the markets, but there's just so many like ways you can be talented, and they're always accepting new kind of forms of craft. So if you have something that's a little out there, just go for it. Like that.
Try it.
Yeah. And especially where we are, like the market fees are really reasonable. So like you really don't have to put a whole lot in, and quite bluntly, like you do make it back pretty easily. So yeah, for any young people, and I just wish more people my age knew that. It's like, and even on a grand sense, like even if they don't want to go to a market and monetize it, just there's a lot of talented people I know that just don't realize that they're talented, and they think, oh, well, I can't, like I'm not talented, all this stuff. It's like, just shut up. Yes, you are. You're good.
I think a lot of people, like their inner voice or intrusive thoughts are telling them that they're not good enough and then they can't do it. And they think it takes a special someone to be able to do that. Like it takes a risk taker. It takes a special person to be able to put themselves out there like that. Mm-hmm. And I wish that everybody knew that it just, you just have to start. Just go, just do it.
Yeah, like if I'm here, other people can certainly do it too.
So how many times have you thought, maybe I should change my mind, and then you build something and you get the best reviews and you're just beaming?
Yeah, frequently. It's all the people that are close to me in my life know that, especially the bigger commissions I can be a bit of a roller coaster. And I think especially if you're a creative type, I think that's kind of just, it's part of the double-edged sword. Like that's, you have those thoughts of self-doubt. You have those thoughts like, oh, I'm not good enough. Everything I make sucks, this and that. Like, I think it'd be pretty hard pressed to find a maker that's like, oh no, everything I do is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of not letting that inner voice win, and just because, yeah, you're totally right. Like at the end of the project, like you look back and it's like, wow, like I actually made something in it.
Yeah.
It's good. And I'm the only one that sees all the flaws with it.
Have you faced any challenges by being in a small town?
Probably the hardest part would be, and especially because what I do is a little bit more on the specialty side, probably finding materials would be the hardest part. Like there's a lot of people that have like sawmills and stuff like that, but if you need, like for instance, when I made Zach's tables, I used a lot of resin. Places that's closest to me, which is Welbeck Sawmill, they're, great and stuff like that, but I can only access them at a certain time because they close before I get off work, and I can go there, or I can drive all the way to Collingwood. So like to get things you need, I think probably, materials and sourcing what you need is probably the hardest part. Now that's become a lot easier with the internet. Like I'm glad I'm not doing this years ago, where you can get stuff shipped fairly easily. So that kind of negates it. But if you're, picking up let's say a large slab of wood, you can't really buy that online. You kind of have to go see it and pick it up. So yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part.
That's a great answer. Do you have like a small business hack? I always ask, like, it could be like, it's constant motivation talking to myself, but is there anything that you would say is your small business hack or strategy? Yeah,
I'll tell people the best advice my grandpa gave me is just, if you have an idea, just try it. And the worst it's going to do is that won't work, but at best you might have something great. I think that's really helped me, of just having the courage to try new things and kind of explored some uncharted territory, because I think every person that's ever lived has had that imposter syndrome, So yeah, I think my best advice would just be, just try it out and see what happens.
I agree with you. Just try it on. Just try something. If you have an idea, just try it. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of funny. It's so simple that it almost shouldn't work, but it does very well. And I think the big thing, at least for me, is just breaking free of those intrusive thoughts and just beat your inner voice, I guess.
Yeah, beat your inner voice. If you have an idea, just try it out. I love that. Now, I normally do like a rapid fire round, or just like a little fun, and I kind of put you on the spot. Yeah. So to end us out, I want to ask you, just because I don't know you, I just want to ask you, like, get to know you questions. So are you like a traveler? You said your sister's from the Netherlands. Have you been there?
Yeah. So I've been there twice. She's lived there since 2018. So yeah, I've been there twice. Yeah, twice.
I was going to ask you, where's your favorite place? Where's your favorite place to visit on Earth? It could be Collingwood, but it might be Netherlands now. Who knows?
Yeah. So locally, like place anyone here can go to would be Old Baldy or the Arboretum and Owen Sound. Just two amazing places to hike, and some of the best scenes in Ontario, I think. Probably my absolute favorite place on Earth, I had the privilege of going to the Redwoods, and that is just otherworldly. Like you feel so small and insignificant. You just feel the power of these like thousands of years old trees that are however many dozen feet in diameter. Like it's just, if you ever have the chance to go, definitely go.
I feel like I am embarrassed to ask, but where are the redwoods?
So you can get them. They do grow in BC. So there are some pockets of old growth redwoods in BC. I personally went to California. It was 2 years ago, I guess now. My dad took me on a trip there, and yeah, just amazing. So yeah, in California, I don't know if they grow all up the west. I think they grow all the way up the west coast and select pockets. They have a really niche environment, which is why they can grow so large. But I think you find those pockets all along the west coast.
Cool, because we're trying to plan a trip to the west coast for this summer.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, so I'll put those in there.
Yeah, because it's just really, just change your, I don't know about change, it just really puts things in perspective, I think.
I'm from Lion's Head, so I don't even know this is similar, but when you walk to like the Lion's Head cliff, I don't know if you've done that. Yeah. My favorite part isn't even the cliffs. My favorite part is there is a part when you're walking that is just trees and they cover everything and there are little seedlings around the ground. And that is my favorite part of that hike. And I've done that hike dozens of times. I will always spend the most time there. And if I am hiking like with my husband, he's like, no, come on, we're going to see the cliffs. I'm like, just enjoy this part right here.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't think humans can ever like fully understand just I don't want to get too hippie or push my own beliefs or anything, but just the life force that's there is just like you sense it. Like it's just so peaceful. And I don't know if you ever heard of something called the Wood Wide Web. If anyone's ever bored and want to go down internet rabbit hole, Google the Wood Wide Web, and it's just so fascinating. It just talks about like tree consciousness or sentience and just how the forest works, and it just changes how you look at the nature around you because you already sense that when you're just surrounded by trees and it's so peaceful and quiet, and you feel small.
I'm a big reader, like I read a lot, and my friend she's a friend of mine from Guelph. And she suggested a book on trees a while ago. And I was like, I got to read it. So I'm just going to see if I can find it really quick. If not.
Yeah, because there's two that kind of immediately jump to mind. One I believe is called Finding the Mother Tree by Susan Sicard. I haven't finished that one. The one that I did read was it's called The Secret Life of Trees by and he was one of the people.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of like instrumental people to change how we view trees. He was a German forester, and just really, really interesting book. Good, really good read.
It must be a sign because when she originally said it, I thought I should read that book, and now I have to. And my mom read a book, The Golden Spruce, and that was a pretty good book too, she said.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. I'll check that out.
All right, sorry, back to your... Yeah. Oh, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Oh, good question.
Or want to do?
Yeah. Or want to do. So I haven't done it yet, but when I finish my apprenticeship for the blacksmithing, I want to take like a month or two off and do like a trip around the US, like just drive around. And the one thing I want, and people tell me this is a bad idea, but I really want to try storm chasing because I absolutely love big, powerful storms. Kind of similar to like loving like a forest of trees. I used to like just feel like the power of nature. So I really want to try that. And from a distance, I'd like to see a tornado, but I might also turn around if there's one.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. We had it wasn't called a tornado, but it was called it was like stronger than a severe storm, obviously, in Sauble Beach. And I was driving home from work, and there was trees down everywhere. Okay. And I was driving my dad's tiny little, I don't even know what it is, but it's only like a 3-cylinder. And I got to a point, I was driving around trees the whole time. And then eventually I got to a tree that I could not drive around in this tiny little car. So I had to turn around. And then on my way back to Sauble, I was driving around more trees. So trees were falling down around me as I was driving. And I was like, oh, so I'm just in the middle of a tornado right now. But so good luck. I mean, I've tried it apparently and it wasn't great, but
okay.
Yes. Okay. I'm just gonna ask 2 more questions.
Yeah.
If you could switch careers, what would you do? If you could switch careers tomorrow, what's something you'd want to try on?
Probably masonry, because I've been playing around a little bit with like cutting stones and stuff. But yeah, I think to do like kind of proper masonry, I'm not quite the right build, but I stonework is really cool. So I'd probably be, but if I were to do something that like wasn't making, probably something in teaching. So I've done teaching a little bit and I do really enjoy, yeah, I really enjoy it. It's really rewarding.
And then my very favorite question to ask anybody is, and it's morbid, but if you were on death row, what would be your last meal?
Okay, I'm going to give you kind of a weird answer. I would ask for just a big bowl of clementines. They are my favorite food in the wintertime. I can't get enough. For Christmas, my mom got me just like a big box full of clementines, and they were gone by January. I don't know what it is about them, but yeah, I just can't put them away.
No, I love that answer. I love that answer. Okay, so thanks, Will. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, probably one of the better places to follow me. It's Timmerwerk Timmer.work. But if you just look up Timmerwerk, you'll find it. Or if you look up Will Daize on Instagram, that'll come up too. And also I have a website, obviously by the same name, timmerwerk.ca. Those are two best places to find me. I'm not super active on Facebook.
Can you just mention again the markets you're going to, the Christmas market?
So the biggest one, everyone should go to is the Own Sound Artisan Show, which is the first weekend of December. The first one I'll be going to, it's in Port Elgin at the West Club Link, I believe it's called. That's November 3rd and 4th. And then I will be on the 19th of November, I will be at the Best Western Show in Own Sounds. On the 18th of November, I will be in Thornbury. That's at the community center. And then on the 25th of November, I will be at a place called Kimber Valley. Yeah, the Artisan Show, I believe it's called. It's over near Kimberley. And yeah, those are going to be the shows I'll be at this year.
That's cool. And I should have asked this earlier, but what kind of stuff do you sell there?
Yeah, so mostly jewelry. I kind of make just like a variety of home decor, just whatever I'm kind of feeling at the moment. And I won't have them ready in time for my first show, but I'm also going to be getting into like picture frames and clocks and stuff like that, some wall art.
That's very cool.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, just like, kind of small knick-knack jewelry kind of thing. Yeah, if you want furniture, you can just talk direct to me.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Will. I loved this conversation. It was really interesting to meet you and hear your story. I am really excited to meet you at the Westlink show. I'll come up and introduce myself.
Definitely do that. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I was really happy to always talk about myself. So I really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, it's a really cool thing you're doing here. So I'm excited to see what you do with it.